React Native is really, really good right now. You know, you have libraries like WebGPU, Skia, Vision Camera, all those kinds of big libraries, reanimated. There's not so many hard problems anymore. It's more shifting towards how can you ship faster.
I see the ecosystem is and the community is super excited about Nitro modules. Like everyone I talk to is like, Nitro this, Nitro that.
Well, there's, I think, multiple reasons. One of them is, you know, it's trendy. People love to hop on trendy stuff. But the main reason is actually because it's trendy is because it's a more powerful API and more flexible to build stuff with Nitro. And that's also the reason why I use it for all of my libraries now. It's not just because I just made it and it's better, but it's because we can support native state. We support stateful native objects, like for example, a Vision Camera frame can only be represented in Nitro. You cannot build the same stuff using other APIs currently, as of today. First-class array buffer support, first-class C++ support, and interop between C++ and platform native languages. So it's all those kinds of features that Nitro provides, which aren't possible in other module frameworks. So it's a mix, and then a nice benefit is also that it's faster. So that's a nice add-on. It's super thin abstraction, type safe, compile time generated, and it's much faster than the alternatives for like single method calls.
60 times faster.
Yeah, depends on a benchmark. One of those benchmarks, that one you're mentioning right now, was like I think 59 times faster than Expo modules, I think. But again, it's a very isolated benchmark. I mean, it will show up in the real world, like for example, for modules like Vision Camera, 120 FPS, for example, on every frame you do like, I don't know, 10 native method calls, you know, it will add up.
And I just saw Vision Camera did a release with ExoTorch. You're doing VLM, right? Is it VLM, where you can do real-time processing of visual indicators? Did you work on that?
So I don't have anything to do with the actual inference part. There's super smart people also on our team at Margelo. We have some super smart computer vision experts who work on that stuff. I'm building the library that powers all of this, so Vision Camera and Nitro. And Vision Camera V5, the biggest, latest release, which I worked on the entire winter, is allowing all of those use cases to be super, super flexible, and you can extend it in third-party native code, which is super powerful, and you can extend it with ExecuTorch, MLKit, computer visions, OpenCV, all those kinds of frameworks, and build native inference based on Vision Camera V5. And then what's super exciting as well for me is the new WebGPU integration from William, because you can import Vision Camera frames as WebGPU textures and run WebGPU compute shaders based on those frames. So it's zero copy GPU buffer reusing in compute shaders, and theoretically you could build a computer vision inference like face detection, QR code scanning, or any other kind of inference using WebGPU, which is only JS code, only shader code. Like you don't need any native code, any dependencies at all anymore. Just import it into WebGPU and run a compute shader. That's a super cool and powerful thing we built in collaboration with William. So shout out to William.
Do you think that'll work with Type GPU in the future? For those who don't know, Type GPU was recently released. It's a more of a palatable syntax around WebGPU to build shaders if you don't like to write huge files of shading logic.
I think it would, yeah. I think Type GPU seamlessly integrates with React Native WebGPU. You could, in theory, I haven't tried it, probably write a compute shader in Type GPU and run inference or any other kind of processing, parallel processing. Maybe you just want to get an average color of the frame you're looking at. Maybe if I look into this view, the average color would be blue, and you can write a compute shader using Type GPU to run that inference on every camera frame. And it will run entirely on the GPU. And you know, you can write it using fast refresh. You don't need any native code. So that's a cool power behind of it.
You've fixed a lot of hard problems. You just go from one hard problem to the next. Yeah. What would you say is the next hard problem for you to fix?
When I started doing React Native, I think that was like 5-6 years ago, there were so many hard problems and so many things to solve, and it was just, you know, I started building apps and I started discovering one problem after the other and just improving and re-engineering and rebuilding things from scratch. And now I think with, you know, the awesome community that we have, with companies backing it more and more, there's more funding in the ecosystem now than ever. I think we're at a state where, you know, React Native is really, really good right now. You know, you have libraries like WebGPU, Skia, Vision Camera, all those kinds of big libraries reanimated. There's not so many hard problems anymore. It's more shifting towards how can you ship faster. The performance ceiling and the capability ceiling is, you know, very, very high. So you can do almost everything already. It's just how can you ship faster? How can you be more efficient? How can you do more stuff? But then again, if you need some special feature or some maybe new feature that Apple releases, just write a Nitro module, drop into native code, you know, quick, easy, Swift and Kotlin code, and then implement it.
The community is very excited about Nitro modules, as I said.
Yeah.
But one thing I see is it's kind of missing this like orchestration. So you've got like such and such building this Nitro module, such and such building that Nitro module, all with the kind of different type of patterns.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you probably know that a lot of old React Native modules are now just being rewritten in Nitro modules.
Yes.
Like I think geolocation got rewritten, and there was a couple more which parts of the community rewrote in Nitro modules. Do you think there's an opportunity for like a Expo type SDK kind of umbrella around Nitro?
Very quick answer, yes. I think that would be cool to kind of, you know, build a Nitro ecosystem, the Nitroverse, if you want to call it.
The Nitroverse.
There's a possibility for that, and it would be awesome to do so if it's like all, you know, the same API style. I'm just writing API design skills right now. We're going to use that to design our APIs now. So everything is unified, everything is the same best practices and makes use of like, you know, more advanced Nitro features like the object-oriented programming that you can do in Nitro instead of making everything static, which is the previous old legacy approaches. But then circling back to your question, so I think if everything would be one ecosystem, then we could also reuse types, for example. Yeah. Like that's the goal I had with React Native Nitro Image, which is a type that's being reused in multiple libraries already. So you can display images using React Native Nitro Image, and then Vision Camera photos can give you a Nitro image already, which is the in-memory type. So it's already reusing the type. So there's sort of an ecosystem already forming around here, and we can definitely push it more, yeah.
And for those who aren't familiar with like Nitro Image and like the actual problem it solved,
yeah.
Because I've been in React Native space for a while, and I worked with these image pickers when you had like, you'd basically pick an image and it would copy it into some disk space.
Yeah.
And like most of the time of picking the image was that copy. I don't know if you've used like, you have popular image pickers like React Native Image Picker that uses a copy phase. And sometimes if you pick like 100 images, it can take like several seconds to even open. Nitro Image is one of those foundational pieces of the ecosystem, which a lot of people will notice, but it'll start to take shape of like doing that in-memory image transfer instead.
Exactly. The in-memory part is the most important keyword because before Nitro Image you would just write everything to a temporary file and then just pass strings around, and sometimes even passing like base 64 strings around of the like actual binary data, which is even worse. So that's the worst you can do for performance. And now you have an in-memory type, which is just a binary image. It's zero copy. You just pass it around and can operate on it, like resize or save it to disk.
It's crazy how much like open source you funnel out. And then also, I guess you have like client work as well. What do you do to like balance this? I know you race, but is it just like race and open source, race and open source?
Kind of, yeah. Kind of, that's a mix, yeah.
One last question, and this one's a bit of a fun one. Unlimited pizza, unlimited tokens?
Oh, that's a hard one. Maybe unlimited tokens, because at some point you can figure out how to pay for unlimited pizza if you have unlimited tokens.
Okay.
So I think then you have the best of both worlds, right? Find pizza coupons in the city, make no mistakes, and then it finds you unlimited pizza coupons, right?